So the first distinction I want to make is, let's say, the first when we move from the absolute truth or dimension, in which there is no distinction. Right? So when we simply rest in and as the absolute, there is no inner, there is no outer, there is no subject, there is no object. Right? There just is. That's it. Period. Can't say anything else. This is why a lot of the great enlightened sages, they would speak very little, or some of them not at all. Or Ramana Maharshi, for example. Just want to hold up Ramana. So he was one of... You're familiar with Ramana Maharshi? Just look into those eyes, man, you'll disappear. So this is one of the most profoundly enlightened sages of recent times in India. And he said that his highest teaching was in silence. And for those who were ready, who were receptive, who were ripe, they would just have to go and sit with him, you see, in his presence. And then of course, you know, he actually meditated and sat in silence for years. And then after a while, you know, people were coming and sticking around and not going away, and he actually started to develop a teaching and to make distinctions. But I'm just sharing this with you because it helps you understand why, you see, the absolute reality itself can't really be spoken. Do you see? The most we can say is. Do you get it? If you just stay with that, is. Do you get it? Can you feel it? Can you recognize it? That's all there is. Everything is that. That's what the enlightened vision is. It's accessible at any moment. Don't forget. It's right here. Is. But in that is, there is no other, there's no distinction. There's no masculine, there's no feminine. Everything is that. Masculine, feminine, and everything else. Tree and stone and wall and blue shirt is that. You with me? Do you get it? Yeah. So when we move down, when we move into manifestation, then distinctions start to appear. And what starts to appear first is, at least in terms of this realm, is a polarity, right? Because we live in a world of polarity, don't we? Up and down, hot and cold, good and bad, in and out, right? Everything is a play of dynamic polarities, like the yin and yang symbol. And so the diagram out there, and also what this model is illustrating, is this fundamental polarity, which in the East, in India, is described as Shiva Shakti. Shiva Shakti. You could say attention or pure awareness and energy. You could say formlessness or emptiness and form. That's what how they usually describe it in Buddhism. Emptiness and form. Shiva Shakti. Okay. So this is like the you could say the first distinction, but you have to see from the absolute point of view that they don't really exist. Do you see? It's a paradox. That's why you've got to hold it lightly, or else you get attached to things with your mind. So Shiva, or emptiness, or pure consciousness, what does that represent? It represents the timeless screen, the ever-present screen of consciousness, of awareness, right, which never changes. It's dimensionless, right? So, when you go into deep sleep every night, that's where you go, unconsciously. Right? That's why it's so blissful. to go into deep sleep at that. If you really let go deeply in meditation, that's also, you also recognize, awaken to that deepest place or no place. So as I said earlier, it's like the screen and on which the movie appears. Right? So it doesn't mean the mind has to be completely quiet, but you're just resting as the screen. Right? And then Shakti, or the world of form, is everything else. It's all of this. Body, mind, world, all the explosion of manifestation. Right? So, one way we can also describe this polarity is masculine and feminine. Right? But obviously this is before we're talking about being a man or being a woman. Right? So this is a principle, you could say, a masculine principle, a feminine principle, or as we often hear today, the divine feminine and the sacred masculine. Right? This is kind of a dynamic polarity that's kind of moving everything. The whole world, the whole manifestation is both at the same time. You see? Because there cannot be Shakti, there cannot be energy, there cannot be form, there cannot be a body, mind or a world without Shiva, without consciousness. You see? They are not two. This is why it's called non-duality, not two. There is no separate world. Unless you're there to perceive it. I just saw Lawrence go. So, Shiva Shakti. So, did you get what I'm saying? So there's fundamental principles of masculine and feminine. Now then, of course, when we start speaking about human embodiment, we're either gendered in a male body or a female body. But our essence, right? Our who we are as this polarity is not exclusively masculine or feminine. Do you get what I'm saying? So there's man and woman, male, female bodies. That's gender. But when we're talking about the masculine and feminine in terms of spiritual principles, right? That's those principles are shared by both men and women. You with me? Yeah. So I was just thinking about Alex, you see. So Alex has always known that he's a man in terms of his essence, primarily. But he was born for some unknown reason in a female body, right? This does happen to some people. So it just goes to show that our gender does not define our polarity. You with me? Yeah. So, to make a big generalization, and it is a big generalization, most men are more masculine in terms of their essence than they are feminine. So most men are a dominant masculine essence, and based on different studies, they reckon it's about 80%. So about 80% of men identify more as masculine in their essence. And the same with women. Most women generally identify 80% of them with the feminine essence. That's more who they are, what they express. But there are also men who have a more dominant feminine essence, maybe around 20%. Same with women. There are women who have a more masculine essence. Isn't that interesting? Now, I'm not going to go through all these models because it will take too much time. I just put them up and you can have a look at them. I'll just mention some of the key ones. So when we're talking about masculine essence, what is it? It has to do with presence, right? Because when you think about consciousness itself, right? What is as presence? Right. Alertness, right? Strength. If you're very rooted, there's a sense of strength. You're like a strong tree that can't be moved. Right? But then, as that masculine essence penetrates through a body mind into the world, well, what is there? I just said it. There's penetration. You see? Now, obviously, sexually, that's what we're about, right? Penetrating the feminine. Right? But also in terms of the pure masculine essence, it's about purpose. You see, it's about direction. It's about determination. It's about perseverance. It's about pushing through. Persevere, that's the meaning of that word. It's also about clarity. You see? You'll resonate with some of these qualities?
Intellect, maybe.
Huh?
Intellect.
Intellect, yeah, I was just going to get to that. So then when you, so those all of those ones I just described, they're not necessarily about the mind, right? But then you have the mind, and then you have the male capacity for intellect, rationality, logic, right? Rational thinking, all of that. Men in general tend to be wired that way more than women, don't we? Have you noticed that? I have. Logic, determination, directionality. So the masculine is about direction. Yeah. Confidence, natural confidence without arrogance. Right. So we're talking about free from ego here, the pure masculine. Right? The pure masculine is confident but not arrogant. Rational thinking. You're capable of thinking rationally without the need to control. Okay. Stability, strength, courage. It's a big one, right? Discipline, necessary discipline, and an unwillingness to bend to corruption. Right? So just feel how all those things land in yourself. You might recognize those qualities in yourself. You might also feel, I need more of that, or that's in me, but I don't fully embody it. Right? But get in touch with the fact that is that your essence? Is that your true essence? Okay. Then we could say the masculine is there's truth and love. Truth and love. So you can't really separate those two. Because if you would say, well, what is the meaning of life, or what is spiritual life all about? You could say truth and love. It's about discovering the truth, right? Living the truth. But it's also about love. In terms of the human expression, it's about love, right? But we can also make a distinction there that truth is more the masculine pole and love is more the feminine pole. Because the feminine pole is more about feeling and relationship. You see? The masculine pole is more about standing free in the midst of all of this chaos of relationship. So the feminine is about love. This is the essence of the feminine, love. The feminine demands unity in relationship. The feminine is about communion, interrelatedness. The feminine is about empathy, understanding in the sense of empathy. So the feminine knows how to listen, to be there, to be available for another, to care and empathize with another. Right? As men, that's often a challenge for us. Can anyone relate to that?
Yeah.
Okay. Something a lot of us have to learn. Compassion. The feminine tends to be more in touch with its intuition. The masculine tends to more filter everything through the mind. The feminine's very comfortable with change and flow. Creativity, creation, art. The feminine is that in us which can forgive another. The feminine is the essence that knows how to heal. It's all about connection, harmony, openness, nurturing. Think of your mother. Doesn't matter what a fucked up, selfish bastard you are, or mum is always going to love you, right? That's the mother force, the mother principle. That's the feminine. Where would we be without that? Right, Mark? He's from Italy. Lots of big Italian mamas, they know what we're talking about. Receptivity, generosity. So did you get the idea? So just feel how all of that landed in you. And I'm sure you've all found that both sides land in you, right? You're not exclusively one or the other. But you might get a sense that in terms of your essence, and I'm not talking about ego here, I'm talking about your pure essence as a human being is more masculine or more feminine. Alright?